Hello, this is Mr. G, and I am demonstrating how to make a simple model that is watertight, starting with the head. This will be 3 or 4 videos along with a separate little modeling piece that shows you how to make a model with separate pieces or something that is not watertight as well. The design of this video is to make something that is simple and quick to do. There are many other videos out there that show much more complicated versions of this, but I'm trying to do quick and dirty and simple and yet still correct. So as you can see, we're going to get something as to this effect near the end. He's still kind of boxy, but we'll have something like this. We have our new scene. I'm not going to save it, and I'm going to immediately save my scene onto my desktop, make a new folder. I'm going to call it Final Animation Project, just to be safe. And then I'm opening that folder and saving my thing in there. And this guy might be something like a knight model take 01. Now, before we get going, a few things. Make sure that your subset menu up here, your menu category, is set to polygons. And we're going to be using a lot of the create and a lot of the edit mesh. So before you get started, make sure edit mesh has keep faces together checked on, which it is right now. You don't want it checked off like that. Make sure there's a check mark by it. And make sure create polygon primitives has interactive creation turned off. 2 things to look out for. All right. So as I said before, we are starting with the head. So with the head shall be a cube. Now many of you always ask, why not start with the sphere? Heads are round, spheres are round. I'm going to press 5 to make it gray. The reason for that is you get a center vertice that has 20 edges going into it, which is horrid for several different reasons, for attaching and all this stuff. Now, in the separate pieces model video, this is fair game and you can totally do this, but we want to make it with minimal geometry, and that's not minimal. That is a whole bunch of extra surfaces that we don't want to deal with. So we're going to start with a cube. Now, the options we're going to use for the cube are a width division of 4, a height division of 4, and a depth division of 3. Everything else here is going to stay the same. We're going to scale it manually and all that stuff. But with these options, I have a nice even cube that's going to be his head. Now, in my 4-pane view, I can do that with either the space bar, or some of you have already modified your 4-pane view. If you want to go back to a normal 4-pane view, you can hit this. And I'm going to make it gray on each window by pressing 5. So I have it here and here. This way I know it's the front. Now, a good rule of thumb is to use your units here as feet or whatever unit you want. I like to use them as feet. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 feet tall knight, 6 feet tall knight. I'm going to make him just under 7 foot. He's going to be tall and lanky, hopefully. It's all said and done. Now, the reason why we did it in 4 divisions on the width and the height is so that there's some symmetrical aspects here and that we know our side will be divided up into 3. So that I can use this, and eventually we're going to delete these faces here, like that. And we're going to mirror this, but we're not going to do that just yet. We're going to kind of keep it all together for a while, and then once you kind of get the idea of it, we're going to keep going. So he's 7 feet tall, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extrude. So as a quick reminder as to what's going on here, Maya works in 3s, right? So we have move, rotate, and scale. You all should know that by now. We have the 3 different ways to navigate. We have you can rotate, you can shift or slide or toggle, or what they say, and you can zoom, right? There's 3 ways to view, there's 3 ways to move. There's also 3 ways to manipulate your object: edges, vertexes, and faces. And there are 3 things we're going to play with on the Edit Mesh tool. We're going to mostly use Extrude, but we're also going to touch on Insert Edge Loop and maybe get to Interactive Split Tool. There are a bunch of other tools, but like I said before, we are doing simple. All right, enough talking, more modeling. So here we go. I'm going to grab the faces. I'm going to grab one face, shift select the other face. I'm going to double check one more time, keep faces together, has its check mark on. and I'm going to extrude. Now with that extrusion, I can pull it down, and just another explanation of we have a local or a global. This little piece right there, this local or global piece, will change the way our tool here interacts with how these things move. It'll be more apparent when we get to the legs. So why don't I just save that for later. I'm going to keep his head a square, and now I'm going to extrude again. Edit Mesh, Extrude. Now, this can be horribly time consuming. I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to scale it wide like so, and then I'm going to kind of scale it a little forward, and then pull it a little forward so it's kind of coming out for his chest. This is kind of like the trapezius clavicle area for my knight, as I say. Now I'm going with minimal geometry. I'm trying to really have a very clean and simple shape with still some lines and edges and vertices to manipulate and move around. So instead of going back here again, over and over again to Edit Mesh Extrude, which is totally fine, there is another way to do this. We can clearly just press a simple hotkey, G. G will allow me to repeat the same action over and over again. So I can do the same thing that I just did by pressing G, 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 G. So repetition works, as I always say. So if I hit G, I extrude out. Now, double checking in 3 mode, I'm back to 1. I'm just going to pull it wide, and that's his neck. This is going to be his neck. Then I'm going to hit G again. I'm going to pull it wide, and now I'm going to make this little trapezius place to kind of broaden out for his neck to become the chest area. And now I'm going to make the chest area. Nice and simple. Just pull it wide. Now I can always double check by hitting the space bar and just kind of come up with my ratio. I'm going to make his legs about 3 feet long. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to scale this in. He's going to be a rather fit knight. So I'll give him a nice little set of hips. And that should be it. Now, even though I'm done extruding with this part, I can still manipulate some more. So I can actually grab these 2 faces and move them forward a little bit. And he kind of comes forward. And the back I'm going to leave pretty much the same. I'm going to pull it out maybe just a little. Now I'm going to be scaling and rotating these a little bit more later. But for right now, his chest comes forward as is. All right. So now what to do? The arms or the feet? The arms and the feet, 2 different approaches. There's lots of different ways to do this, but I'm going to start with just by making an edge loop right here. So if I go to Edit Mesh and instead of Extrude, I choose Insert Edge Loop, I'm going to grab and drag so that I make a nice, even little mark right there. So what Edge Loop does is it cuts a ring around so I have more faces. So now I'm going to grab each face here, 1 and 2. I have 2 faces, and now I'm going to extrude. Edit Mesh, Extrude. Now remember when I was talking about global or local? So if I hit global and then I scale them wide, they both move out from the side. Now this wouldn't happen if I did local. At least I don't think. Could be wrong. Yeah, if I scale out or pull out, they both go out that way instead of with scale, but notice how they're at a different angle. So what I like to do is I like to hit the global tool and scale them out so they go out straight. Now this is going to be his kind of bicep arm area. So his arms come out. And once again, I'm aiming for simple. So I'm keeping his arms rather large. And so I'm going to have him scale them out just a bit, move down just a bit until I get that. Now that's his bicep. And then I'm going to extrude again, which is G. Now on the local scale, I can pull it out wide again, scale them out. And now his arm's going to kind of come down. And I'm going to scale it in and pull them down like so, bringing him into his elbow, like so. Now, the faces here have become angled just because of the scaling and rotating what I've done so far. Now, depending on global or local again, if I'm on global and I hit rotate, they're going to rotate on different directions. So if I pull this way, one becomes up, one becomes down. This is where I'd like to try and keep it and toggle to my local tool here. And now if I hit my scale and rotate along the Y, they both, I guess only one moves up. So I'm going to pull this back up a little bit, and I'm just, instead of rotating it, I'm going to go to his edge and tuck it in there. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And it doesn't matter too much, because it's going to be symmetrical. Remember, I am cutting this in half, so whichever one winds up being better is going to be the winner. All right, going back to the face, 1, shift select 2, and extrude. Edit Mesh, Extrude, or G, and I'm going to scale them out. And this is the forearm. This is the elbow to the forearm bit. And remember, I am keeping this simple. I know it looks boxy and lame, and even in 3 mode, it doesn't look too hot, but we're going to get there. The idea is to try and keep it as simple as possible for as long as possible. So I'm going to say right around there. I am just eyeballing it. I am probably making his arms a little bit longer than his body, but that's okay. And G again. And this time I'm going to go to global and I'm going to widen it out. And I'm going to scale him down. And this is where his hand is coming into play. Now, most hands don't look like this. The wrist gets smaller. And I can adjust that now, or I can adjust that later. I'm going to do a little bit of both. And what I'm going to do here is hit edge, double click, and scale it down sooner. So that his hand kind of forearm, wrist. Now if I wanted to, I can add an edge loop here and make his kind of forearm like a Popeye forearm, which I'm going to do. Why not? Insert edge loop. And I'm going to drag it right around there. Double click it and scale it up. So now he's got this bulbous shoulder, or excuse me, bicep, and then this giant forearm. All right. And there's where his fingers and thumbs are. So wrist and then hand. And it's okay that it's angled out a little bit. All right. Now I'm going to deal with the legs. So I'm going to grab the face. And I'm going to go 1 and 2 for the legs. Now it's already split down the middle. There's a few other ways to do this. You could create some extra space here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit mesh. And I'm going to turn off keep faces together. This is a trick I'm going to do in the next video as well, where it allows me to do his fingers and thumbs and all that stuff. So I'm going to go edit mesh, uncheck keep faces together, and hit extrude. And now I'm going to pull them out just a little, and then widen them, and then shift them undo, and then hit the global tool, and then shift them out even wider, and then create this little gap by moving their edges. So I'm going to complete that tool, object mode, jump back to edge. I'm going to grab this, and what this is going to allow me to do is it allows me to kind of give him a little bit of a quick and dirty crotch. So his legs don't immediately jet up from the center. I'm going to kind of keep them, I want to keep them relatively flat, but I'm going to kind of have them close. And now from this, so this is kind of his waist area, and now from this part, that I'm actually going to fix later, this part is going to be his actual leg. So now I'm going to jet out and extrude. I can turn this back on because they're already separated, and I'm going to extrude out and pull them out. And again, mid-thigh, I'm going to kind of scale them forward and pull them forward. And I probably should have done that in global, but looks like I got away with it. And now I'm going to extrude again. And now this is coming into the knee. So I'm going to scale them in like that, and then scale them in up. I'm going to go back to my local and scale them in so they kind of come in together like so. And this way as well. And then I'm going to scoot it back so the back of his leg stays flat. Haven't made too much of a butt yet, but I'll get there. Don't worry. And now I'm going to do his shin / calf. So this is his knee. I'm going to extrude out once. This is his knee. I'm going to extrude out again. This is just me pressing G. Now this is the bottom of the knee to sort of mid-calf. And so I'm just going to kind of pull it out. And his calf is going to kind of hang back like that. Maybe I'll widen him out too. A little bit more. And then this is going to go down to his ankle. And now the ankles get nice and skinny. And it looks like I'm going to make him a little taller than I originally planned, just because I want him to have nice long legs. So I'm going to pull these down a little bit. I might rescale these in a little bit. And then I'm going to pull one more time down. And now this is the heel of his foot. And then I'm going to take these two places right here. Actually, I'm going to scale these out for a second. Hit R to scale. All right, there is an easier way to do that, but that'll be another demo. All right, and then 1, 2, and then I'm going to extrude out again. So that's G. Pull it forward. And I can start scaling it down and then pushing it down. And I can extrude out again one more time. And this is the tipsy tops of his foot. If I wanted to make like night-like boots, I can do another extrusion for like a point, but I'm not going to. And that's your basic extrusion method on a model. I don't want to make any demo too long, so I'm going to cut it off right here. The next video, I'm going to show you how to give his body more shape. He's got no chest, he's got no butt, and to give his hand a hand, and to kind of round this out a bit, because in 3 mode, he looks kind of like that. But once again, remember, we're going for basic, keeping it simple, and that's the end of this tutorial.